one Sunday.
Hello. Tonight we're going to meet one of the enfants terribles of art in Quebec, a guy whose name has become synonymous with controversy, and not just in Quebec. By his own count over the years, he's produced about 5,000 works of art, sculptures, and paintings. And when the establishment finally did honor him with the Prix du Québec for art, he complained. He complained about never having had a solo exhibit in an established museum in Quebec, never having held a paying job, never working in a properly heated workshop. But nevertheless, Armand Vaillancourt sculptures on.
Armand, superstar, Jesus Christ. You see me, now you don't. Artists have to be visionary people. If you're not visionary people, if you only show what's happening today in our society, you're missing the point, because we have to have a very clear mind and also an objective to be able to, maybe without pretension, showing the world what should be or should become the world. This is stainless steel. I done that a year and a half ago. And this is a project I would like to be realized in the old Montreal, the old port. It's 72 feet high. If you see one man here, it's a good scale. I designed that sculpture a few years ago in Saint-Sauveur with recycled wood. And I worked with a man and woman over there to build a sculpture that I dedicate to Indian of all tribes and for America. I could call that art in plural. I found that piece in the street. It was in garbage, you know. Some people are straight people who come here, they go like that, you know. They think that's not art. What is art? Expression of life, eh? And some drunk people, they draw their own hands. This is easy, this with the hand. You know, you put your hands on the plate and then you reprint it. But all those hands had to be drawn with ink, you know. Painting is like shit. You cannot explain that. You could only smell it.
Armand Vaillancourt, welcome to Sunday Night.
Hello.
Many years ago in a magazine in Canada, someone described you as having the head of Charlton Heston as Moses and the body of a sprinter. And that was 24 years ago. And look at you now. You still look, well, you compare yourself to Christ in that video, but you still look like you have the body of a sprinter. At 60, what, 64?
64, yeah. It was the 3rd of September, yeah. Well, I figure out I need a good body to carry my mind, because my mind is very active. I don't want a sterile body, and so it keeps together.
So how do you do it? How do you keep that sprinter's body?
I think never compromise in my life, or less as I could do. I think it's important to fight rather than quit. And I say to people, never fall, because when you fall, you're going to be hit harder. If you fight physically, you manage to stand up. And all kind of a way, you have to be the first one who attacks instead of waiting for the hard stuff to come at you.
But what are you telling me? That it's your mind that keeps your body in shape? That you don't exercise? That you don't work out? That you don't follow a special diet?
No, I don't do any special, you know, except I was in Quebec the other day. I drove, you know, I went there for about 7 o'clock. They honored me, a group from a gallery called Le Lieu in Quebec. And a bunch of artists of Quebec, we exhibit some, what do you call that? Les draps to cover the bed, you know? And of course, I made one of those sheets full of ink, looks like blood. And I said, well, the blood for freedom and liberty, you know? And the exhibition is there. And so they gave me a certificate also for my I'll pass onto the artwork, you know, for the beautiful group over there. So I dance all night with them, having a drink. So if you dance, you know, I don't dance as much as I used to dance, but I used to dance almost every night for years. And it's one of the best exercises you could do, because the way I dance, it was like, you know, like today you see the people dancing on their head and their back. I used to do that in the early 15, 16, and 17.
They say that you could dance 25 miles a night, but you can't walk 25 miles a night. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I used to dance sometimes 5 hours without stopping with Suzanne and with other people. Some were classical dancer, you know, the woman that was who played.
When you say Suzanne, you're not talking about any old Suzanne, are you?
Yeah, the old Suzanne from the song.
From Leonard Cohen's Suzanne.
Yeah, well, was, no, she belonged to herself, not to Leonard, not to me. She was a free woman. She's in California. She left me a note the other day, you know, and we have contact once in a while together, you know.
And she's the mother of your daughter?
Yeah, she's 33. She lives in Sonoma, north of San Francisco, a beautiful area where they producing one of the beautiful wines of California.
You grew up, you were born rather, the 16th child of 17. And you were born in 1929. I wonder what kind of a family life you had. What was life like in your family when you were a little boy?
Well, 29 is, for the people who know some of past history, this is they call the repression, the depression. Of course, those days nobody had any work, you know, or in the States, or in Europe, or in Canada, or in Quebec. And we lived this area. I remember my father decided to, well, I was too young to remember this area, the beginning of it. But when I was 3 years old, 1932, my father and mother bought a farm in Eastern Township. And we moved there, and of course we salvaged the children and my parents from starvation.
By being on the farm?
Yeah, it was a great moment for me. The farm was very a turning point. I didn't know in those days that in my life I worked hard physically. We have to walk every morning, the kids 5, 6 years old, to go to the school. And after that, 1 mile a morning, 1 mile at night. And after the 7th grade, we moved to the college in Saint Ferdinand. That means every morning 3 miles at foot, and coming back at night and in winter. I don't remember I lost one day because of a storm. Because we were a proud family, and for us kids to not go to the school because of a storm will be a very shame and a disgrace in our family. So we have lots of courage. I remember my father on Saturday morning, they cut with the handsaw wood. They should have used maybe a logs to hold the piece of wood. Instead, my father was kind of a rough man, but a good man for us in a sense. But we used to sit there for an hour or two in a very strong wind. In winter time, it must be 30, 40 below zero.
Holding the wood down so we could cut it?
We had to sit on the wood, so the two men used to cut the wood. I remember I used to dream in my head to just forget that I was frozen to death, and you know, counting the minutes in my head and hoping that they will say, "Okay, Armand, you could go." Another of my brothers will come and sit beside us. You know.
Was there something in that life, in that experience, in those years, that made you a sculptor? A sculptor?
I didn't know those days, but I want to become an architect. And at 16 years old, I already wrote lots of poetry, all kind of a poem, all kind of thinking, writing also. I start to think about traveling. As soon as I reached 18, 19 years old, and I start to travel all over the state to know. And what gave me good information in life also is a program from Radio Canada here called Radio College.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In the 40s?
Yeah, well, as soon as it started, at the end of 40, I believe, I remember all kind of a program, scientific, artwork, musical aspect, different. I think it's one of the great things happened in my youth to be able to touch this knowledge, being so far detached from the rest of the world, you know.
Way out in the Quebec countryside.
I remember my father, when we were young, they say, well, okay, the family, let's go to Drummondville. My older sister, they work in Drummondville. Or let's go to Magog. Or let's go to Sherbrooke. Let's go to Saint-Anne-de-Beaupré. Or to Quebec
And these were
City.
big trips, right? Because
it was at the end of the world. We couldn't believe. I came in Montreal, and I was 12 years old. My brother-in-law and my sister, Laurette Demers, took us 3 children, and we moved to Ottawa. And they said, okay, we're going to drive to Montreal. And St. Catherine used to go both way or east to west. We sit behind the three brothers, because the 4 brothers, we were the last kid, all men. We sit behind, and my sister, my brother-in-law, expect us to say, wow, that's beautiful, St. Catherine. But full of vanity that we were, you know, proud, and say, okay, nobody's going to catch us thinking we are just ignorant. We look every aspect of the street. We didn't say a word to the disappointment of my family. But boy, today I still remember what I saw, you know. It was great. You know, the St. Catherine Friday night was the end of the world for us, you know.
In many ways, you spent a lot of your career as an artist fighting the establishment, whether it be the political establishment, the economic establishment, even the art establishment. They've now given you the Prix Bourgeois, the Prix du Québec for art, for a lifetime's achievement. What do you think made them change their mind? Why the turnaround? I
fight every bastard in this world at any time, at any price. They couldn't, you know, it's too late. My title is Trop haut, trop bas, trop tard. This is the story about a man who is very short, who tried to make love with in a whorehouse. And he's too high. And he said, well, lower. And then he said to the lady, trop tard, it's too late. He already come. This is my title.
Is that what you think of the prize they've given you? Too late, too little?
It is. It's kind, because I think that, seriously, things are moving ahead, if you like it or not. At my age, they couldn't do without giving me the prize, you know. This is not really the government. There's a committee who decide. If one other person on the committee, I believe there were 5 or 6, if one decide that I was not good enough for the prize, I would never probably have the prize. Years ago, one day I learned that I had the prize in July. You should see what I wrote.
I saw it.
No, but this is this is sweet, this is speed, but at the beginning, I didn't want to even think to...
You mean you wrote an acceptance speech and you kept toning it down?
I wrote 80 pages that long, how I feel about it. It was not very kind what I said in it.
It's like your sculptures. It's massive and monumental, right?
When I start to write, I write till my hand is falling. You know, I get lots to... I think I empty my mind, but the problem, when I wrote a lot like that, I wake up at night, and I want to write more. It's like a very bitchy game, because I can't sleep anymore.
There's more to talk about, too, and Sunday night we'll return with Quebec's renegade sculptor and artist Armand Vaillancourt, a man who for decades has been making sculptures that are much larger than life.
People are afraid to do some large work. They think, you know, the museum are very contiguous, they're very small, so they are collecting small work of artists. Myself, I like to work with the planet, with the world, and of course, I need lots of space to be able to express my destiny and the destiny of our society.
Sunday night, back with Armand Vaillancourt. Tonight, a man who sees art in the bits and pieces of everyday objects, something our crew discovered when they paid a visit to his house across the street from Mount Royal Park.
I was asked by some friend of mine, a young cineast, to do a bird for a video clip. All winter time, when the wind is strong, you hear that but very subtle sound when it's the wind strong. Early 50, I start to collect styrofoam. I will have about 50 times this size if I will go out during the garbage day, you know. That's interesting. I think it's better than any sculpture I could make. Matter of fact, those are my sculpture also. I call it my 18 years on the farm. This is 1, 2, 3, 18. My house is nothing but a studio. And this is like a cacophony of objects. Stainless steel is a magic material. It never rusts. So you're doing that today, 1,000 years, it's still going to be there, even if it's in the earth.
Stainless steel, I can understand the fascination with stainless steel, Armand Vaillancourt, but why a fascination with styrofoam? Why is your basement full of styrofoam?
I get thousands of pieces I collect for, I think, the first who came to the market, I start to collect. I could have more if I had a larger place, but it's not too legal. I have to find another place to put those.
It's not
those
legal. You mean
pieces.
it's a fire hazard?
The fire department told me it's not too good to keep that in my house, and I agree with that. But I lost so many places for the last few years. I have to, to find another place to put those.
But what is it about styrofoam? What is it about the material? As a sculptor, you work with all kinds of material. What is it about styrofoam you like?
Well, at the beginning I worked with clay. After the farming, the question you asked me before about the farming, it's very interesting because it really built my mind and my body as for matters. I'm considered by Yves Robillard, an historian from possibly in the world, the most advanced and the most prolific artist in the expression of the matter. I see things and everything that I look at. It's very tiresome at times, to go on the street when it's garbage day, because I see everything to be used as art, as form of art.
You don't want them to throw it out? You want to pick it up and bring it home?
I think society is extremely selfish by throwing everything. We overuse, we don't need all the material that we are building in this world, in our society. If the world will use as much material as we use in a capitalist world, there'll be no more good in this world after 3 or 4 years.
I want to get back, though, I want to get a straight answer, though, on the styrofoam question, because I want to know why this material fascinates you. Everyone has it at home. It comes in the packing box. Mm-hmm. Why do you like it?
This is like a world exhibition who come to my street in my house.
But what is it about the material that you like?
In the early time, I work on, with trees, the tree industry. Then I work with fire, because I couldn't go with the scissor inside of the shade. I start to use fire. Then I want to work faster. I used to work on big blocks, say 4 feet by 8 feet with a torch. In 1 second with a settling torch, you go like that, whoosh, and you make a hole that size. Then you bring to the foundry and you cast that in bronze, when cast iron, when it's live, and you create a sculpture. You become like a god in front of that material.
Styrofoam makes you a god?
The styrofoam itself, it's like a quick expression. Like you told me, multiply 129,000 by 162,000. You come in 1 second, answer. I could make a sculpture as fast as that, and having the right answer. In early 50, I discovered one piece of styrofoam in the street. I brought it in a foundry. We put a big walls of steel. I was sure that this piece will explode. And when I succeed, I invent that technique all over the world.
Of styrofoam casting. Styrofoam casting.
What you do, the lost wax, you do all kind of a process before you to achieve, and you cannot work on a large scale. My sculpture on Mont Royal weighs 74,000 pounds. You put molding sand around that shape in styrofoam, and when the metal goes inside, it burns the styrofoam, and when you open the mold, you got like eternity in front of you instead of having a material which is very fragile and very like, it's very magic.
You've been doing your magic for years, work upon work. You showed us some of them in the videos, all the hands on the 36-foot canvas. What is the drive? Where does it come from? Why are you constantly boiling over with this creativity, with this desire to create?
I guess it's like this is my drug to life, and I never, you know, I will always, I think life, it's impossible to survive healthy mentally and physically, and if you don't have an approach, a creative approach. The government, why they don't succeed to bring better to this world? Because they look only material, they look only for money. If they will have a global view of what it is like, it's you. I can't sleep if I see my neighbors will be in trouble. I got compassion for the people of the world that we see that they are starving to death.
But you also have this passion to create things. I mean, some people say you're the first performance artist, or at least Quebec's first performance artist.
In the state. But never the books in the state will acknowledge that, because when you're born in Canada and Quebec, I invent the crushing car before César, 5 years before César in Europe. And one day I opened the Life magazine and 3 or 4 pages of crushing car. And for years I used to do that in my studio. And
well, what's the appeal of performance for you? For performance, I mean, many sculptors simply sculpt. They don't do performance on stage. You do. You went in 1989. Was it with U2 in California? You did
87. Yeah.
87. What's the thrill for you to perform? To do your art in public?
That's interesting. I was in Oakland with U2, and I marked on his decor, you know, stop the madness, and he marked Bono rock and roll. And it was because he put a graffiti in my sculpture a few days ago, and they arrested him to do the world tours in the state. So Bono called me Friday and he said, well, why don't you come, and I'm going to send you the limousine in front of your house on the Esplanade. I said, okay. And I go there and have a good time with them. And I make a speech. I think I scared the U2. I talk about solidarity. I talk against racism and justice in this world. I fight. All my work is basically a manifestation of life, and also a contestation of life from all the disease of this world.
Of the state of things, of the way things are. But also your art gives you the need to have to fight to get it accepted. That whether it's in asbestos or Toronto or California, San Francisco, your art provokes animosity.
And in Stanley Street, about 2-3 years ago.
Street, yeah.
Well, see, the subjects are not always cute. I marked 32 companies who are doing arms and guns and ammunition for war. You know, just in the area of Montreal, there's 220 companies who used to do, you know, material, lots of money for arms, and
even
nobody
stuff
knows
that
about
isn't
it.
overtly political. There's a fountain in San Francisco that they want to get rid of. Why do they want to do that?
Well,
why do you have to fight to keep your works together?
You know something? 3 or 4 months after the inauguration, the Ronald Reagan and the Californian people and the mayor of San Francisco, they decided to destroy my studio. 200 feet, 80 by 40 feet high. They bulldozed all my place. I was in Big Sur for a few days for take a little small vacation, and I took a taxi on Market Street, and I went to look for my studio, and there was no more studio.
But the fountain's still there. The fountain is still there.
Yeah, but it's a big manifestation for and against to keep the work there.
One of your dreams, they say, is to design a dream city.
For years.
What about Montreal is not a dream for you?
They screw everything in Montreal. This autoroute east-west, the Radio-Canada here should never be here. I was the last one to quit this land in Champlain-La-Gauchetière. The police had to evacuate me there. I contest because I think that place should have been another place, and keep this beautiful village with all those old houses and build this building somewhere else. There's lots of land in Montreal.
Armand Vaillancourt, my guest tonight, Quebec sculptor Armand Vaillancourt. Join us again next Sunday night. Obviously, you will be contesting and creating a lot longer.
Yeah, I hope so.
No, it's fabulous.
Yeah, well, many beautiful people around me that I don't know. Since the pre-bourgeois, you should see what all the
good wish, perhaps.